Welcome to my one-bedroom apartment in northwest London. It's 506 square feet, which is just under 50 square metres. Today I'm going to give you the full apartment tour and talk a little bit about the zen feeling I've tried to achieve in every room. Okay, let's start in the lounge. So the idea in this room was to create a space geared towards relaxing. I wanted a sort of cocktail bar vibe, so went really dark with the colours and added lots of warm lighting and metallic accents. There's loads of different textures in the room. This pink couch is velvet, the other is faux suede, and the seating area is zoned off with a thick Berber style rug. I've got a lot of these hairy cushions dotted about, which makes the whole place feel very cosy and welcoming. And using this oversized footstool in place of a traditional coffee table adds a softness to the room. I'm a little bit obsessed with plants, so I have a mixture of living plants near the windows, and in the darker corners of the room I've gone for dried botanicals, many of which are actually from my own garden. I also painted out the radiator in the same colour as the walls. You can imagine how distracting a big white radiator would be here. I also did the same with all the woodwork and the door, so that when it's closed it sort of recedes into the walls and you're left in this cocoon of blue. I have my workspace set up in the lounge as well. I work entirely from home, so it's important to have a functional space, but I try to keep my desk as minimal as possible while still having some art around me and objects that give me a little inspiration. This is a hand-painted plaster model of a human heart, which might seem a little morbid, but I think it adds a touch of dark academia style to the room. Because the colour scheme is quite dark and moody, I have lots of lamps and lighting options. I actually used some garden spotlights to uplight certain plants and paintings, and I have lots of smart bulbs in my fittings, just so that I can set the dimmer level of each lamp individually depending on what I'm doing. On the way to the kitchen, you pass through this little entryway. It's a small, narrow space, but it's the first thing you see when you come into the apartment, so I've added some personal touches to make it feel a little more welcoming. That includes as many plants and botanicals as I can fit onto the shelf, and of course a mirror for those final checks on the way out the door. The kitchen is a total contrast to the dark feel of the lounge. It's a lovely bright space and was one of the first big projects I did in the apartment. When I moved in, the kitchen was in a pretty bad state, and there was also no space for a dining table in the previous layout because the cabinets ran the full length of the wall. So when I redesigned it, I moved things around to leave space for a small dining table. I cook a lot, but I find there's still plenty of storage and countertop space for food prep, so I think this layout works way better than the old one. To soften up the whiteness and add a bit of texture, I've got a lot of these trailing plants on shelves and pot stands, and the level of light seems to be quite good for propagating cuttings and germinating seeds, so the kitchen usually becomes a bit of a plant nursery in the springtime when I start off my vegetable seeds for the garden. I try to keep the countertops as clear as possible and just have the few things I use every day. My morning coffee routine is an important part of my ritual, so my mocha pot, kettle and this well-loved 90s coffee grinder get a permanent spot on the counters. Other little things like having the microwave built in and raised off the countertop help to keep as much free space as possible. When the kitchen was initially painted, it was pure white, but it ended up feeling a little sterile to me, so I added some warmth with these colour blocks on the wall behind the dining area. I found a set of hand-carved wooden salad tongs in a local charity shop, and I think they make an interesting wall hanging. I have just one open shelf, but it lets me display some of my nicer glassware, and I really like the way the light refracts through the crystal. Before I show you the bedroom, I'll quickly take you into this useful little space. Having a separate laundry room in a small apartment is a real bonus, and I have doubled it up as a walk-in closet. I've really tried to make it as pretty as possible, so despite it being basically a large cupboard, I have given it the same attention as any other room. I've hung some artwork, I've mixed textures with different baskets, and even added a plant. I painted the entire space black and installed these adjustable spotlights to let me highlight certain areas and keep the pipework and boiler out of sight in the shadows. I hung a few of these simple curtains to conceal the less attractive items like laundry detergent and the vacuum cleaner. I've another one here that hides my step ladder, ironing board and broom, so it means all that practical stuff has a place but is hidden out of sight. In the bedroom, the theme of texture continues, with lots of throws and blankets and textured cushions and pillows. The position of the bed means the first thing I see in the morning is the trees and greenery from the neighbour's garden. It's sort of like waking up in a treehouse. I didn't want to go overboard with colours, so I've kept the palette very muted in here, soft greys and creams that make the space super restful. Of course, the obsession with houseplants continues in here too, and I have a little family of them hanging out by the windows. I find it very relaxing to have a slice of nature in the bedroom. I try to keep the bedside tables quite clear, so just a pen and notepad on one, and on the other a display of dried grasses that I grew in the garden and then mixed in with some faux botanicals to make an interesting display that doesn't require any maintenance. I don't meditate every day, but this cosy space is perfect for having a bit of a zen moment. There are no distractions. Every element in the room is really there to add a sense of peacefulness. So when I want to take 10 minutes just to de-stress or focus, this is where I do it. I've even kept the artwork to a minimum, so overall the space feels very calm. The light in here gets very atmospheric as the sun goes down, almost eerie, with the shadows and silhouettes of the backlit plants against the dusky sky. I'm not really a morning person, so this electric blind means I can open the blinds when I wake up without getting out of bed. The bathroom has had a major glow up. I replaced the lighting, restained the grout, and the nasty blue border tiles got a fresh coat of black tile paint. I use hanging baskets for my storage, which means I can hide all my toiletries out of sight, and it also adds a little bit of texture to the walls. It is a small room, so I have 2 mirrors on opposite walls to give the illusion of more space. Bathrooms can often feel quite cold and sterile with all the hard surfaces, so I've put together a large display of artificial flowers and some dried grasses arranged in a textural vase to make it feel a little cozier in here and not just a functional room. All that's left is the garden, for which I've made a separate video, so I'll link to that below. But thanks for watching this one, wherever you are in the world, and hopefully see you again soon. Bye for now.